Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you watched the previous video. In this video I'm going to talk about Historathon 2024 and why I decided to join it. I recently watched a video by Fred at Read by Fred where he talked about the first book he read for Historathon 2024, which is for the first quarter of 2024. And that period is from Prehistory to CE 500. I commented on his video and said that I was currently reading a book called The Children of Athena by Charles Freeman, which would qualify for the first quarter, but that I hadn't completed it in time. He replied that the book would still qualify for Historathon 2024 and that there is some flexibility in it. So after he said that, I thought about it a little bit and I decided that I was going to join it. And I went ahead and picked 3 more books for the remaining time periods, which I'll talk about a little later in this video. Before I talk about the books I selected for the remainder of the year, I'm just going to talk about Historathon. And I took this from Fred's video, the description of it, and I'm pretty much just going to read it. About Historathon, Historathon 2024 is a year-long nonfiction reading event where people read up on the history of the human civilization. The prompts. Though the event spans a year, it is broken up into time periods where you can participate by reading about the history of a subject you're interested in during one of the time periods, the prompts, in the year. The periods are as follows. Prehistory to 500 CE, that's for January, February, and March, the first quarter. 500 CE to 1500 CE for the second quarter, April, May, and June. 1500 CE to 1820 CE, that's July, August, and September, and 1820 CE to today, October, November, and December. Fred said they picked the 1820 CE because that's generally considered the beginning of the Victorian era. Join in on the fun. Who says history has to be boring? You decide on the historical subject you'd like to learn more about, and if it fits the time period, talk about it with us. The event is to bring history to the forefront and get people reading history. Be sure to take part by either uploading videos of books you've read related to this event and or comment on one of the various videos uploaded for the event. If you're not comfortable with either, that's okay. Read and watch the various videos from booktubers taking part. Look for the hashtag Historathon 2024 to find all the videos that will be created for this reading event in 2024. And now I'm just going to list the hosts that Fred listed. Vin at Revenant Reads, Peg at the History Shelf, John at Nicholas of Autrecourt, Mark at Book Time with Elvis, Bill at Bill Ruttenberg, Debs at Rain or Read Stuff, Gareth at Book Songs and or Other Magic, Erica at Passage of Time 8561, and Fred at Read by Fred. And this section I just said about Historathon 2024 I'm going to put in the description of the video so you can see it if you'd like. First I want to say that I don't really read very many history books. Most of the nonfiction books I read are memoirs, biographies, or autobiographies. And the only recent books I can remember reading about history are, I read a couple of books about World War I, a couple about World War II, a couple about the Korean War, and I got partway through a book about Vietnam. But I hadn't read any other history books that I can remember since I was in high school, and that's a long time ago. So this is a bit of a getting out of my comfort zone. So the books I selected for 500 CE to 1500 CE, which is the second quarter, April, May, and June. The Middle Ages, A Graphic History by Eleanor Janega, Neil Maximaniel, illustrator. For 1500 CE to 1820 CE, the second quarter, which is the third quarter rather, which is July, August, September, I selected The Enlightenment, The Pursuit of Happiness, 1680 by 1790, by Richie Robertson. And for the final quarter of the year, 1820 CE to today, which is October, November, and December period, I selected The Path Between the Seas, The Creation of the Panama Canal, 1870 to 1914 by David McCullough. I also selected a bonus one because I saw a book that, per one of the blurbs on it, it spans the 13th to the 17th century, so it's actually partway in two of the periods. And that book is Fifth Son, A New History of the Aztecs by Camilla Townsend. That one looked interesting to me. It was a little bit difficult selecting books only because many of the books are about various wars, and as I said, I have read some of those books in recent years, but at this time I'm not really interested in reading more. I like to get into a different side of history. I mean, wars may be talked about, but I don't want that to be the main focus of reading books for this challenge. Next, I'm going to talk about the one book I did read this year, which is a historical novel, The Children of Athena by Charles Freeman. And I became aware of this book due to a recent video by Justin at Triumphal Reads. Before I talk about the book, I want to give a brief author bio, which is from the back of the book. Charles Freeman is a specialist on the ancient world and its legacy. He has worked in archaeological digs on the continents surrounding the Mediterranean and develops study tour programs in Italy, Greece, and Turkey. Freeman is historical consultant to the Blue Guide series and the author of numerous books, including the bestseller The Closing of the Western Mind, Holy Bones, Holy Dust, How Relics Shaped the History of Medieval Europe, and most recently, The Awakening, A History of the Western Mind, AD 1500 to 1700. He lives in Suffolk. The book talks about Greek intellectuals from the period 400 BC to 250 AD. The talks about a variety of intellectuals. I think there's about 20 in the book, from philosophers, mathematicians, geographers, a doctor, orators, a great variety. And some of them have more than one specialty. Many were philosophers. The time period covered is from the period when Rome took over Greece to the period where Christianity became the dominant religion in the area. Most of the intellectuals, if not all, probably were born and raised in wealthy families, although some of them, their families fell in somewhat hard times. But the fact that they were born and raised in wealthy families enabled them to get good educations and enabled them to pursue a career as going around lecturing on topics and things of that nature. Many of them served in public office. Many had the ear of governors of the area or even emperors. The book also has interludes where it talks about important historical events of that time. I personally have not read a book on that period or much history at all, actually, as I previously said, since high school, so it's been a long time. As such, there's a lot of locations and important figures, generals, rulers, governors, important citizens that are mentioned that a person that had experience with this period of time beforehand may get more out of this book than someone like myself. I'm not sure that this is a great entry-level point for somebody. I think it'd be a really good book for someone with experience reading history of those times, because it's possible to get overwhelmed with all the figures that are getting thrown at you. I don't read a book like this as I would a textbook, so I'm able to take from it what I can. So I think for someone like myself, if you're willing to do that, then this would be a good book for you. Next, I'm going to read a sample from the book so you get an idea of the writing style. This is actually about the final intellectual that the book talked about. And the title of the chapter is The Neoplatonist Philosopher and Mathematician Hypatia, c. AD 355 to 415. Philosophers still occupied their distinct role in the Greek world as late as the 1st century, even though by then pagan learning was under threat from the Christian Church. Philosophers stood apart from the tensions and chaos of late antique cities, reflecting on the importance of virtuous public duty and ready to share advice without charging for it. Earlier subjects of this book, such as Dio, Chrysostom, and Plutarch, are examples of men sustained by private wealth who spoke of good government and concord within and between cities. So in 415, there was nothing unusual in Orestes, the Roman prefect of Egypt, whose palace was in Alexandria, consulting the most respected philosopher of the day, in this case a woman, Hypatia. Hypatia was born in about 355. Her father Theon, a mathematician who had written texts on Euclid and Ptolemy, appears to have made mathematics a substantial part of Hypatia's education. This was not unusual, and Plato had taught that mathematical logic was the gateway to a deeper understanding of their philosophy. But Theon took the subject to a much more advanced level. I would be interested to know if you plan to take part in Historathon 2024, or if not, if you include history books as part of your reading. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day.